Wonderful. Welcome to the 162nd meeting of the National Academy of Sciences. I'm Marcia McNutt. I'm the president, and now it's my honor to present the president's address to the members, which is a summary of our activities over the last year. Most of us here at the NAS have been focused for the last 3 months entirely on the changes that are being wrought within the scientific community. But we shouldn't forget that prior to January 20th, we actually had a really well-functioning scientific enterprise, and we're very busy here at the Academy, working to bring science to bear in an impartial way and a nonpartisan manner for the nation. Therefore, in this presentation, I'm mostly going to be focusing on all of the good things that we got done in the past year. And tomorrow will be our opportunity to think about the present and the future, okay? And I want us to give a special welcome to everyone who's joining us online today. This is an open presentation for anyone who wanted to register for it. Okay, so let me start by saying many members are urging the Academy to speak out more about the many policy changes that have been detrimental to science in America. Here are some examples of some public statements that we've made since the outcome of the election was known, and there will be more in the coming months. The difficulty has been to remain true to the Academy's nonpartisan mission while speaking out for the importance of science to the nation and, of course, the fact that we want to avoid misinformation. What's interesting about these things we put out, just about every one, I received a request from an academy overseas to translate it for their members as well. Okay, so now I'm going to go through, I think I've got 4 or 5 different sections of types of activities here at the Academy, and I want to fill you in on what they are. The first, I'm going to talk about the NAS's own programs that we run here out of the National Academy of Sciences and that don't necessarily include our other 2 academies of engineering and medicine. We run a number of programs to benefit the research community, both nationally and internationally, and to communicate the excitement and benefits of science to the non-scientists. And we also have a number of programs that are really trying to engage non-scientists in our work. I will not have time to cover all of the programs today, so I'm just going to give you a few highlights. You can ask me if there's any program you didn't hear about that you want to know what the status is. So I want to start with the Kavli Frontiers of Science program. This is one of the longest-running programs we have here at the Academy. It started in 1989, and I remember when we wrote our first strategic plan, this program checked every box on the strategic plan in terms of what it was doing. The goal is to give young researchers opportunities to develop leadership skills and communication skills, how to talk to people outside their field without using jargon. It's also a type of activity that promotes interdisciplinary and international collaborations. And I'm not sure whether it's a testimony to the skill of the director of the program and his staff in picking the people to come, or whether it's the effect of the program itself, but 10% of the National Academy members now are alumni of the Frontiers program. So something is indeed working there. In addition to the Kavli Frontiers of Science, we have 2 international forums that we run, one with the Royal Society and another with the Israeli Academy of Arts and Sciences. And this forum that we run with the Royal Society is the center of our longstanding commitment to working with them. It takes place annually, alternating between here at the Academy and at the Royal Society's headquarters in London. In late May of this year, about 60 scientists from the United States, the UK, and several other countries will convene in Washington to discuss methods currently used for measuring biodiversity with the view of building momentum towards standardized methods for environmental monitoring. The talks will be recorded. They'll be available on the website for anyone interested in tracking biodiversity. And then in terms of the Israeli program we have, again, we co-organize a forum that goes back and forth between here and Israel, although because of the war with Hamas, the last couple have all been here in the U.S. The last two meetings, one was on alleviating water security or scarcity by desalination and water reuse, and another on improving crops in the face of climate change. Both of those took place in Washington, and we sincerely hope we can get back to Israel soon. We also do Science for International Policy. You've all heard of the G7 and the G20 summits. Each of these summits is an opportunity for the scientific community to co-author among the G7 or the G20 countries statements about how science can inform current issues of the day that are being discussed at the ministerial, at the G level. This picture is from last year when we met in Italy. Sure looks like Italy. And Brazil hosted the G20, and in both cases, the relevant science academies issued some statements. Okay, now let me talk about the need for public engagement. You can see here the numbers for trust in science. Before COVID, 73% of Americans said that science had mostly a positive effect on society. COVID took a big chunk out of that. And you can see that the number dropped from 73 to 65 on November 21st, and by after COVID, it was all the way down to 57%. But the numbers are encouraging now. They are rebounding. As of November of last year, 76% of Americans expressed a great deal or a fair amount of confidence in science to act in the public interest. And I want to thank all of you in the STEM community who have been working very hard to reach out and engage with non-scientists, because I think these rebounding numbers are a testament to the efforts you've been making. But these numbers belie a very difficult truth, and that is that 76% is very different if you're looking at Republicans or Democrats. Okay, it's much higher with Democrats, and it's much lower with Republicans. So we clearly need to be able to reach across the aisle. When I started my career, science was considered a bipartisan issue that both parties equally supported, and we need to get back to that kind of relationship with Congress. Thank you. So what the Academy is doing is running a number of programs that actually try to engage with non-scientists. You know, the Blavatnik Forum and the Forum with the Royal Society, that's for us. But these creative engagement programs are for reaching broad audiences that would not otherwise be served by traditional communications initiatives. We've got to focus on audience that have low to moderate affinity for science, and emphasize positive messages that evoke humor or heart. Because as scientists, we speak to each other here. But when we're talking to non-scientists, we have to get them here or here. We have to get them in their gut and their heart. And that's what these programs do. As Anne Merchant says, loves to say, who runs this, we have to sell science as hope. Because people have problems today, science is their hope for tomorrow. So one of the fun things that we do is something called LabX. And LabX is a sort of umbrella for a bunch of creative engagement programs. And one they have is Wrong Answers Only. There are 3 comedians and 1 scientist who get together and they put on a show. It's a live show. And this one is from one that Gene Robinson did last November. And for those of you who listen to NPR and listen to Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me. That is sort of the format of this show. And it's a way to teach science to people who might be afraid of it, and then they aren't so afraid of it. So I'm just going to play a little clip here of Gene Robinson up on the stage at this comedy club. And someone from the audience asked, the comedians provided their interpretation of how a bee might dance to express various things to the hive. But we didn't hear from the expert, so they wanted Gene to accurately demonstrate the way that bees actually dance. So here you go.
So, a disclaimer, I can't dance straight up, so I'll have to stay on the floor.
That is a great disclaimer.
So, special thanks to Gene, and I'm sure if any of the rest of you would love to get together with some comedians and have some fun, and would love to hear from you. Okay, so another program that I mentioned last year that it was just getting underway is a YouTube series called I Was Born. And these were inspired by the talks that every council member has to give a biographical talk that talks about who they are, how they got into science, and how they got where they are today. And so that was such a popular thing with council that we thought, why not share this with the world? So the series is now fully in production, and it demonstrates scientists who look different and who have different paths, are doing different things, and who had different education levels. That with a bachelor's degree, you can get a STEM career, that sort of thing. So it helps people understand that there are myriad routes to becoming a scientist, that anyone can become a scientist, and you don't need necessarily to have a PhD in order to have a great career in research. I think many of you have heard of the Science and Entertainment Exchange. This is also a program that's been around for a long time. This program pairs Hollywood producers with scientists so that they can put some more realism and realistic characters into movies. I mean, I think this is a great program because I will admit freely that I first learned about genetics from watching Jurassic Park. And so I actually think these movies can be helpful. And we had some very high impact projects in the last year. We teamed up for the production crew that was doing Last of Us with some mycologists. We provided nuclear scientists for the movie Fallout. We had forensic scientists for NCIS and an astronaut and NASA historian for the Fantastic Four. So thank you for all of you who have contributed to this wonderful program. I think it has huge impact. Thanks. Another one of my favorite programs here at the Academy is called Based on Science. And Based on Science pairs a scientist with a journalist or a science writer who knows how to take that science and express it at the 8th grade level, which apparently is the average education of people on the internet. Yeah, no, that's right. This Based on Science was inspired when Google called us up and they said, this was before the pandemic, they said, there are all sorts of questions that are being posed to Google where we can't find any credible site to send them to for a good answer. The only information out there is misinformation or, hokey stuff like if you suck lemons, it'll cure your cancer or something. And, most respectable scientists don't think to write a journal paper saying, no, sucking lemons won't cure your cancer. So there was no one to send it to. So that's why we made all these based on science modules. 650 people each day go to this site to find honest answers to questions from everything from health to climate change, COVID issues, AI issues, and we're now expanding the current pages. For example, to counter the claim that if you give your child massive doses of vitamin A, they won't get measles. I mean, they're talking in Texas about children coming in with measles who also have vitamin A toxicity. So this is, I think, one of our most successful programs in reaching the public and countering misinformation. And now here's something kind of fun. Last year was the 100th anniversary of this building. And so that means it was completed in 1924. And that was, of course, the Roaring Twenties. So the staff here held a series of science speakeasies in which everyone dressed in Roaring Twenties outfits. And guests actually had to register to come. They paid to come. And there was themed cocktails and snacks and treats for everyone. And at each science speakeasy, there was a wonderful public lecture by a scientist who really could connect with the audience. And this group was very young and very, very well educated, but not scientific. So it was a great group to reach. And we had a whole series of those. Okay, now let me move to the programs that we do through the NRC, the National Research Council, because these programs do involve the National Academy of Engineering and the National Academy of Medicine. So the first is we have our Committee on Women in Science, Engineering, and Medicine. They have focused the past year on preventing sexual harassment, supporting researchers who are also responsible for caring for family members, because there's so many of us in that situation, either caring for elderly parents or for young children. And they're also looking at what are the pathways for women in tech. So you know that's still one area where women are lagging. For a long time, the three academies have supported something called the Government University Industry Research Roundtable, or GWIR. But our friends from philanthropies pointed out to us that almost as much basic research at universities is being funded today by philanthropy as being funded by the federal government. And so there was no reason not to include philanthropy in this trifecta. So now it's 4 organizations. It's Government, University, Industry, and Philanthropy Research Roundtable, otherwise known as WIPR. And you can see some of the things that they're working on here right now. And these are some of the members. Now let me go on to human rights. The Committee on Human Rights had a very busy year. They were working on behalf of scientists, engineers, and medical professionals who have been jailed or persecuted in their home countries for no reason other than the fact that they were doing their profession. They were doing their job. As listed here, many of our foreign colleagues found positive developments in their cases, thanks at least in part to CHR getting involved and advocating on their behalf. They also hosted a symposium on to create curricula on STEM and human rights, putting those two together. But what is sort of unfortunate right now is the Committee on Human Rights used to work only on international cases, and now they are finding that there are actually domestic cases of human rights violations to scientists, doctors, and engineers in this country. And I didn't think I'd see that in my lifetime. Another long-running program is the Committee on International Security and Arms Control, called CSAC. Raymond Jonlo from Berkeley chaired this committee for many years, and he has now stepped down, and Persis Drell is now the chair. What CSAC does is they set up track 2 dialogues, or sort of behind-the-scenes dialogues, with countries with which we have very tenuous diplomatic relationships. And often these engagements by CSAC are in advance of opening up new possibilities for dialogues with other countries. So recently they've been having dialogues with Russia on nuclear risk reduction, with India on space, biosecurity, and protecting critical infrastructure, and they are about to reopen dialogues with China. And if anyone is interested in this committee, we'd love to hear from you, because it's the sort of thing that it's not necessarily obvious from your bio that this might be something you'd want to be involved in. Okay, so building on the success of the NAS's Frontiers of Science, we decided to expand Frontiers to include engineering and medicine and start doing meetings collaboratively overseas. So this is a picture from a meeting that we had in January of this year, I think it was, or February. It was earlier this year, and it was in Rwanda. It was in Kigali, and it was absolutely a fabulous, fabulous meeting. And what I love about these meetings is that funders also come to them, and they give pilot grant money for young Africans to work with young Americans. Everyone has to be 45 or under to come to these meetings. So it gives them seed money to work together on projects. So this is a great one. This is the US-Africa one. We also have one with the Arab world, and we're hoping to launch one with South America as well. Okay, next is COSMPUP. It's the Committee on Science, Engineering, Medicine, and Public Policy. Ellen Leshner is the chair. COSMPUP is I think one of the only NRC committees that only has members on it. So it's got members from the National Academy of Engineering, Science, and Medicine. You can see here some of their projects. They did an update to the very, very popular publication we've been putting out for years called On Being a Scientist. And this is a booklet that a lot of advisors give to their students, because it just gives them a lot of the ins and outs of how you can be a scientist with integrity and earn respect and not violate the norms of science. In this updated version, it's going to have modules that are online, so it'll be much easier to disseminate and much easier to update as things change. They are also launching, under Tom Wang's leadership, a rapid response report on how to reduce administrative burden for regulatory compliance. I don't have to tell you how much time you spend filling out paperwork to show that you have used your grant money responsibly. And surveys that have been done say that it's about 40 to 42% of researchers' time that isn't in the classroom that is taken up by regulatory burden. So we're hoping to come up with some solutions to that. And they're also doing a major consensus study on corrections and retractions. So our Climate Crossroads is a cross-divisional program. So most of our divisions are sort of disciplinary, and we realized that climate change covers all of the disciplines. It covers engineering, it's got medical effects, all of that. So the Climate Crossroads is a cross-divisional program, and they've set up a roundtable on artificial intelligence and climate change. So right now, we're seeing that AI has been very, very useful in predicting weather and predicting climate, but it's also adding to climate emissions because of the power requirements. And so this roundtable considers both the positives and the minuses of AI and how we can promote the pluses and mitigate the minuses. Another Climate Crossroads program I want to talk about is the Climate Conversations. These are, they've hosted so far more than 40 conversations with 120 experts, and these online conversations have been viewed more than 85,000 times. Now, my favorite part of Climate Crossroads is the Congressional Fellowship. This fellowship provides current congressional staffers, so staffers to key congressmen or senators, or staffers to key committees that impact the science. And they come here intermittently over a course of 9 months for continuing education about climate change. They meet the experts, they exchange business cards with them so they know who to call when they've got a question. And there actually have been graduates of this program who have gone off and generated bipartisan legislation on climate change. And so we've worked really hard to make sure that both Republican staffers and Democratic staffers feel welcomed in this program, and that we want to hear from them. I think that, okay, so let me go on. The Climate Crossroads program is, of course, done in cooperation with our Office of Congressional and Government Affairs. And you can see all their activities. For the 118th Congress, which ended last year, they organized 122 briefings on 88 reports, and we're looking at new ways to engage with Congress. And they're planning a special event on the Hill where they're going to take that Lab X, wrong answers only, the 3 comedians and the scientists, and they're going to do that in the Capitol. So that should be fun. Okay, Gulf Research Program. Most of you know that as a result of the Clean Water Act penalties that were levied after the Deepwater Horizon oil spill, there was a $500 million wasting endowment that was provided to the Academy for addressing environmental, health, and other problems in the Gulf region. And one of their new things is they're initiating a major grant opportunity that will use genomic sequencing and analysis to gain a better understanding of the Gulf's region's ecosystems and inform conservation activities, resource management, and environmental monitoring. So I think that will hopefully be a fabulous data set that will have long legs and be useful to the people of the Gulf for many years. Although the program concentrates on the Gulf, as you know, Alaska had a very bad oil spill too, the Exxon Valdez. And so in recognition of this shared history, the Gulf Research Program had a workshop that brought together people from the Alaska region and from the Gulf region to talk about their shared solutions that they had developed over time and how they were dealing with the lingering impacts from these oil spills. The GRP is also conducting a public opinion poll on attitudes about the energy future and climate change in the Gulf region, which I think will be interesting to see. Then we also have awards for science communication. And I really like these awards. They've been funded by the Schmidt Foundation. And each year we give out $640,000 to scientists who get the communication right or communicators who get the science right. So it's a very reciprocal kind of program encouraging better science journalism and better communication from scientists. Many of you are going to recognize the NAS member in the upper row with the red tie. That's Marshall Shepard, and he won the top prize in the category for senior scientist communicators. And he now serves as a judge for the prize. And I think Marshall sets a good example for us all of how to communicate science in a nonpartisan manner. Okay. Now let me showcase just a few of the NRC reports that we've done in the past year. So, of course, we have the Report Review Committee, which is the final check on these reports, and these are just some of the numbers from the past year. I want to bring your attention to the fact that the RRC signed off on 218 documents, but only 62 NAS members served as reviewers. I think you all are a very important part of the quality control for this institution. So I hope when someone calls and asks you to serve on a panel or to review a report, you will say yes. You don't have to be an expert in the field. We really want the report to be read widely, and we want to find out what from your perspective seems off with the report. So please consider doing that. We did a report on AI and the future of work, and it looks at recent advances in AI and what that is going to mean for the productivity, the skill level needed in humans, and also for education. So I think that report should be of interest. Although things are moving so fast, it might also become quickly dated. This is the report I mentioned about addressing misinformation of science. This report has been downloaded almost 4,500 times, and it was widely cited in a number of journals and newspapers. And over on the right side, you see what some of the feedback they got on it from the readers. And you see sort of the suite of activities. There's a librarian, a government employee, a scientist who has encountered misinformation, and a volunteer with a climate action group, and they all found the report useful. Another report is Scaling and Sustaining Pre-K-12 STEM Education Innovations. For those of you who listened to my State of the Science address I gave last June, one of the main recommendations, or one of the main findings I had from that, was that we need to up our game in terms of K-12 science education. If we're going to find it harder to attract international students to our programs, we're going to need to have a domestic pool of people. So this report is important for that reason. And then we also did one on STEM education and workforce development in rural areas. And you can imagine how much more difficult it is in rural areas. I know that some towns that used to be able to have a high school now have to bus their kids 45 minutes away because of population moving to the city from the country. So this is another good report. And it was featured in a Dear Colleague letter from NSF with a call they had for STEM education investment in rural areas. Okay, we also did a strategic report on research and development in biotechnology for defense innovation, and it basically asked the question, can advances in AI, machine learning, and biotechnology drive innovation in U.S. defense? Examples of uses of the report were for creating supply chains of valuable products and reducing reliance on processes and chemicals that are harmful to the environment, which I thought was kind of interesting for a report on defense innovation. This is a report we did on maximum precipitation. People have been predicting that with climate change, there's just more energy in the ocean atmosphere system, and so we're going to get more rainfall. And so this was a report we put out on modernizing probable maximum precipitation estimation. And the reason we had to put this out is we were seeing in all these areas that they were having the 100-year flood every 10 years. So we've got to revise these estimates and make them honest for the current day. What is sad about this is after we did this report, we were supposed to have a follow-on report on levee safety, on how levee design needs to change to withstand these more extreme rainfall periods. And unfortunately, that was one of our projects that was canceled recently. So I'm very sorry about that. Most people know someone who's got ALS. And so we put out a report on living with ALS with the goal to make ALS a livable disease within a decade. And so they come out with a strategy for how that's going to happen, suggesting this hub and spoke model to bring in community neurologists, private and group practices, and clinics that provide multidisciplinary care. This has had 13,000 views since last June. Now, I'm sure many of you remember when the Arecibo telescope collapsed in Puerto Rico. We were asked at the Academy to do a post-mortem on it. Why did it die? Why did it collapse? What went wrong? And the report proposes what was not previously considered as a hypothesis for failure, and that is zinc creep caused by the telescope's powerful electromagnetic radiation environment, and that might have hastened the deterioration of the telescope. We put out, this is an update, a program that we've been doing. This was the 8th in a series of updates on best statistical practices for federal agencies, such as the census and many others. We managed to release this in the nick of time because as of January 20th, many federal sponsors have pulled out of supporting statistics here at the Academy. So we were really lucky to get this in, and I find it very sad that statistics are no longer a priority for organizations like the Census Bureau and other groups like that. And the last report I will mention, just because my home's in California, is advancing vineyard health. Sometimes the problems we take on are global, sometimes they're kind of local. And this one is dealing with threats to California vineyards from grapevine red blotch and leaf roll disease. And so the report assesses what we know about it, what are the research gaps, and what is the strategy to get beyond these diseases. With tariffs coming for some French and Italian wines, we may really need California. So I think this is a very important study. So here I'm just listing some of the most engaged publications from last year, and some of these were, came from earlier, but you can see the unique users, the engaged sessions. We've got, for ending unequal treatment on strategies to achieve equitable health care, 60,000 people used that report. And you can see for some of the others what the effect is. Artificial intelligence is another one that has a lot of downloads. Okay, now my last group here is on the NAS publications. For those of you who are new members, we have 3 publications we put out: PNAS, PNAS Nexus, and Issues in Science and Technology. Here are the stats for PNAS in 2024. It continues to do very well. The submissions continue to climb. The acceptance rate is staying steady at, I think, about 15% or something. So these are high-quality articles. And this is the one activity that probably engages more NAS members than anyone else, because all of the members of the editorial board are members. So if you're interested in publishing science, this is a good way to get involved. We have a newer journal, PNAS Nexus, which is gold open access. It is put out jointly by the National Academy of Sciences, the National Academy of Engineers, and the National Academy of Medicine, and you can see that distribution in the editorial board members. The journal was just started a couple years ago, but turned modestly profitable for the first time last year. So that was a pretty quick rise to profitability, but please do consider submitting there because it is a nice journal and it is open access. Issues in Science and, I also wanted to mention that PNAS and Nexus have published a series on reproducibility, transparency, and trust in published articles. Most of these articles came out of the NAS's Strategic Council for Research, Integrity, and Trust. And the journals have been great about putting this out. For example, Protecting Scientific Integrity in an Age of Generative AI, they also adopted the credit taxonomy and use of ORCID IDs for across the journals. Issues in Science and Technology is another, a third journal. It is not peer-reviewed. It's focused on the policy community, but on science to inform the policy community. Here are some of the leading policy conversations, and you can see from the authors that it's not necessarily your normal, postdocs and students who are writing these papers. You can see if you look at 2020 versus 2025, how much this journal has expanded and become popular. And I give a lot of credit to our partner in this, Michael Crow at Arizona State University, for the wonderful effort they've put into making this a real quality journal. Okay, so that's it, and now I just want to finish up a few announcements. One is on June 3rd of this year, I'm going to give the second annual State of the Science Address. And naively, after I gave the first one, I said, well, all these statistics I've given about funding and students and where they're from and all that, I thought, that changes so slowly. Will I have anything to talk about next year? Well, that is no longer a problem. So, yeah. And finally, some really, really good news. I'm pleased to announce that earlier this month, we received a $20 million gift to our endowment from the family of Phil Needleman. Phil was elected to the National Academy of Sciences in 1987 and to the National Academy of Medicine in 1993. During his career, he served on over 25 committees for the NAS, including a rotation on the council. He was already a generous donor to the Academy when he died suddenly last March. In fact, the day he died, I had been on the phone with him talking about this gift. Big storm came through. He had to take his dog out for a walk, and a tree fell on him and killed him. I mean, it was just beyond belief. But what we're going to do with that $20 million gift is we're dividing it into two parcels. One parcel will help support that Frontiers of Science program that I spoke about so highly, the one that checks all the boxes and gets young scientists collaborating with people outside their discipline and even outside their country. The other half of the 20 million, 10 million, is going to go to fund our rapid response. The Academy has, when it first started, the pace of life was much slower. If it took 2 years to decide an issue, well, that was okay. With the pace of change today, we can't afford to wait 2 years to get an answer to a problem. And we actually demonstrated during COVID that we could put out peer-reviewed advice within a matter of weeks to months, and sometimes even less. So that's what this money, the other half of this money is going to go for, is to set up the capacity to do these rapid response studies. It won't fund all of them, but it will make sure that we have staff and support to make sure that when we do a rapid response, it's not stealing away from the other projects we have. So I'm very excited about that. Right now, I would love to ask members of the Needleman family who have joined us today to please stand. They're right down here in the front. So with us today, we have Nina Needleman, who is Phil's daughter, Lawrence, who is his son, and Phil's grandson, Joshua. And what I find really stunning about this is that, you know, Phil died, and they didn't have to do this. We had nothing in writing. There was nothing planned. And the fact that the family came up with this level of gift for us is really, truly amazing. And you have my heartfelt gratitude forever. But you don't need $20 million to be recognized by the Academy. We have an annual fund. And you'll see here that what we track in the annual fund is not dollars, but percentage of people in each section who want to support the Academy by making a gift of any size. And what you can see here is we go from 10% in Section 54. I'm not going to ask the members of Section 54 to stand. But then we have a high of, I'm sorry. Yes, 61 has the highest. And Section 61 is Animal, Nutritional, and Applied Microbial Sciences. Would the people in this audience who are part of that section please stand up and take a bow? So, in honor of their terrific turnout, there will be a seat in this auditorium that will carry a special plaque recognizing Section 61. And I'll tell you what I don't want to see happen is in 10 years, we've got a whole row of 61s. No, we're not going to do that. I would love other sections to step up. And finally, just in closing, I want to say a farewell and thank you to John Anderson, who's been president of the NAE. It shows here the distinguished career he's had, and I have to say personally how much I've really enjoyed working with and interacting with John. His term is ending shortly, and I surely will miss him, but really look forward to working with his successor, Sujay Liu, who is Dean of Engineering at Berkeley. So I think we'll be in good hands. Well, thank you very much, and I think you are allowed to go have a few minutes of free time before the before the Granger Morgan's session on energy transmission. So thank you all. Bye.